It's the big show, talking to the big stars, and there are a few people who you ask for and ask for and ask for, and they very wisely say, clear off, you're a nobody, I don't want to talk to you, but then occasionally you slip through the net and they say, yes, Al Murray, how are you?
I'm very well, yes. How have I got through the net?
What is wrong with you?
What's going on? I need to speak to someone about this.
This is not good. I mean, for years now, we used to speak when you were a nobody like I am, and
yes.
Then you get huge and suddenly you don't talk to me anymore.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, you know, circumstances change, but here we are. We can patch that up now, can't we? We can make up and be friends.
I remember talking to you about 5 years ago, and it was going well for you, always successful on the road, being a touring comedian, but then it seems like somebody in show business catches on to the fact you're quite good, and then you're... And then suddenly you're validated. Congratulations.
Well, thank you very much. But I think that's happened. Actually, I think that's happened across the board to stand-up comedy. Someone somewhere has decided that stand-up comedy is like good and people like it. So there's lots of it on the telly. So yeah, it's been a good few years. The last few years, yeah.
You're such a great turn because you've obviously got your character, the pub landlord, which we all love, and you've created that thing where we want you to say certain lines in a certain place. Does that bother you now that if you don't come on and do the glass of wine for the lady and that stuff, we're going to be annoyed?
It doesn't bother me. But if there was a day where I felt if I have to say that, it'd be like licking the pavement. I wouldn't do it.
And in terms of your appearance, I mean, we had Rosemary Conley on the programme recently, and I was thinking about you because it must be very hard continuing to keep the weight you are because, of course, you're on tour, and we know that every touring comedian is slim, but you can't really be that delicious. Not that I'm saying you're fat.
Well, the thing is, I get away with quite a lot because of the way in looking a bit larger than I am actually, because I wear my trousers around my middle and stick my tummy out, really. A lot of how I look on stage is to do with the way I hold myself, actually. And I'm very often mistaken for a tall, thin Al Murray lookalike.
And do you have any back pain? Because holding that pint glass for 2.5 hours a night can't be easy.
I occasionally get a twinge in my shoulder, yeah.
I saw you last year when you were doing that enormous tour that I think lasted about 700 shows or something, didn't it?
Yeah, we did about we started in January. I started putting the show together in January in a studio theatre near where I live. And we did the last show on the 18th of December. So it ran basically all year with a couple of sort of ball patches, but it was, full on, 120 shows or something.
Have you made it now? Is this the dream for any comedian where you know you can book a venue and people are going to turn up? I was just at a comedy show last night and it was a very famous comedian. He'd booked 2 shows, cancelled one of them, and the one that was left was only half full. It must be soul destroying.
I'm only ever staggered when people come to see me. I just love it. And all I ever wanted to do when I started out as a stand-up comic was to stop having to do 20-minute sets and to be able to talk a bit longer and do 40 and tell more involved things and get off doing bills generally. That was my ambition. So where we've ended up was never, you wouldn't plan to end up playing the O2. And you certainly, if you sit there gnashing your teeth going, why am I not playing bigger venues? That's pretty crazy.
And in terms of the reality of who you are, you're far smarter than your character.
Oh, bless you. That's very kind.
Well, you are. I mean, there's no question.
I wouldn't want the bloke I'm playing to be cleverer than me. That would be really weird.
But that was my next thing. How many people turn up to your thing thinking that Al Murray, the pub landlord, is real?
I don't know. I've not done a straw poll. If they think he's real, then they really are. Then they need a great deal of luck in their lives, I would say, because I think it's so obvious he's not for real. Because he's bonkers mental, isn't he?
He does talk a lot of sense, and I think that's kind of why we like him.
Well, some of it's sense and some of it isn't. So it all ends up. I think what you need to do is judge him on the stuff that's nonsense, to be honest.
And in terms of where you get your material from, the problem with you is you do TV a lot of the time, so that has to be got rid of. You can't really do it again afterwards.
Yeah.
Does that add an extra pressure? I mean, it's great in terms of the bank manager, but in terms of you thinking of stuff, it's got to add another level of pressure.
Well, no, not really, because that was how I used to approach it anyway. When I was starting out, and I do a different, go to Edinburgh every summer, the Edinburgh Fringe every summer. I'd make sure every year I went up with a brand new show. So I used to put myself under that discipline of having to write a new hour every year. So I'm kind of in the swing of doing that anyway. But yeah, telly just chews it up. But last year, like I say, we did 120 shows on that tour. By the end of that tour, the material on in that show is stuff I would care never to revisit, certainly for the next 3 or 4 years, because it's like, oh, do I have to, oh no, here there comes that bit again, oh god, do I have to say that again? So you kind of get into the thing of, I want to write new stuff, or I'll go mental.
And in terms of getting on stage, is that the hard bit? Once you're on, it's okay to do that material for the 100th time, but it's the thought of doing it.
Yeah, it's like a walk to the gallows.
And I suppose really the great thing about you is you only need a microphone, although the last tour, I mean, you did have big barrels and things like that.
Yeah, we had our fabulous inflatable set last year. Yeah. Yes, that's what's so brilliant about stand-up, is it's microphone and lights, and that's why I think so many of us are doing big tours now, because you don't need, certainly it's not like being in a band where you have to share the money. And I used to play in bands, and I was a drummer, so I used to get the least money. So it's not like that, and you haven't got lots of stuff to lug about.
You're coming tonight to Bradford. It's a beautiful theatre, and I'm going to be there, so added pressure. And you get to do it on telly. I mean, there's Michael McIntyre who gets to do it on telly, but actually it's a really rare thing. You've got your own chat show where you get to do comedy.
Yes.
It's almost like an ancient beast, that thing these days.
Well, it is pretty peculiar prospect, and to be doing it in character as well is quite interesting, because it means we've got that kind of shadow boxing thing of being able to say stuff that you wouldn't ever be allowed to ask in a proper interview. If I was me, I literally wouldn't know where to start. But if you're the pub landlord, you go, tell us about your book so I don't have to read it. It all gets quite straightforward.
I got to interview Dame Edna over the summer. She was on Broadway.
Wonderful.
And when I see your chat show, it puts me in mind of her, because you just pull the carpet from under these pretentious celebrities before they even start. Firstly, by sticking a sticker on them with their name. Yeah,
well, there's a reason. I watched a lot of Dame Edna and thought... He basically, the chat show came about because we did an audience with, we did a couple of audiences with for ITV, and he invented that format, or she invented that format. So I looked at that and thought, what's exciting and fresh about that show, the way that Dame Edna did the audience with. So we kind of looked at that, adapting that and using that idea, and then the question was, well, what did Dame Edna do next? Oh, the Dame Edna Experience talk show. So let's look at what it was quite self-conscious and deliberate, actually, all that. And because it's ITV, both things on ITV.
And again, her show on Broadway was called It's All About Me, and that's the key to what you do, isn't it? It is all about the pub landlord.
Yeah, and he's the way he tries to get to grips with the world and his point of view and things, and his mangling of stuff, and taking on a thing like this year's show. There's stuff about the true essence of human nature, which is the kind of thing you get at 11 o'clock at night after 15 pints since lunchtime. What is the true essence of human nature? And we try and figure that out. Why squirrels are the true threat to mankind, and what else? How to deliver the perfect killer chat-up line. There's
one thing you get away with that always fascinates me: when you throw beer over people. You couldn't do that in a live venue because they might chin you.
I do it in a live venue.
Really?
Actually. Oh yeah, you front row at your peril. Front row at your peril.
So is it like seeing the Blue Man Group then, when I need to bring my Mac?
Yeah. If you're sat at the front, wear waterproofs.
Is there any change of clothes for those people who come to ITV and expect to see a big star and end up going home with their hair ruined?
No, they love it. It's all part. I think by the end of towards the end of a series, there's the kind of, they want to sit there and have beer spilt on them. I mean, when I spilt beer on Michael Burke, though, he was horrified.
I'm sure he was.
And he's been to disaster zones and everything.
It's a bit like that Freddie Starr thing with the maggots, isn't it? There's a fine line.
Yeah, there is. Certainly is.
In terms of the magnitude of doing a show like that, there's a whopping great big audience. How do you keep your nerve? Because of course it's not really about you like in a live show. I mean, there's a million camera people to worry about, the directors in your ear. You've got this, that, and the other thing to worry about.
Well, you've just explained it. There's too much else to worry about. You just have to, think about getting it right and hitting the marks and getting the jokes right and getting the interview working. So you kind of haven't got time to get concerned about whether you're nervous or what. The audience are there to enjoy it and are going to like it. But I mean, the really interesting thing about doing TV is it's, when you finished a show, you finished it. You can't go back and fix it. You can't say, oh, can we interview that guy again because I missed those 5 jokes, or wouldn't it be better if we'd done this, that, the other? So you have to sign off on it. And that's for me, the thing I find really interesting about TV is the creation of it is more disposable than stand-up. You put it, you've done the show, you've got to do next week's now.
You're in a great place as well. You're almost like Ali G, where they've got to come on because you're the biggest thing on telly, but they know they're going to have to take some hits. That's brilliant, isn't it? There aren't many shows where you do that.
Well, certainly, yes, that's quite true. Although when we first started, there were some people sat there going, what on earth is going on? But that was quite good fun.
And I suppose the Americans, they're the ones you need to get on now who aren't in on the joke.
Yeah. But they're cool. They tend to be cool, actually. They're smarter than the average. We've had one or two people and you think their hair's going to fall out any minute if I carry on, but the interview's been written, so I've got to hit my gags and stuff.
I want to talk about life on the road, because as glamorous as it may be in front of the curtain, I always do feel a bit sorry that you kind of scuttle off into your car and then have to drive home 5 hours after a gig. How do you accept that come down from the incredible applause you get at the end to just you in a car with Radio 4?
Well, that's a good question. That's a really good question. You just get used to it. It's so sort of part of the job that if you stopped and got hung up about that, I think it could do your head in. But it's just the way it goes. And what we tend to do is drive to the next town and go to the hotel in the next town so that I can have a lie-in. That tends to be the way we do things, rather than clutter up a day with travel. But I mean, my tour manager always says we know we're in the right place when we get to theatre if we're by the bins, because that's where the stage door is. So I'm intimate with the bins of most towns and cities in the UK.
When you see that poster and you see you've got to be here, there and the other place for the next year of your life, does it almost intimidate you in a way? Because at the time when you're at your most wealthy and at the top of your game, you can't really enjoy it because you've got to keep working.
I mean, to be completely honest with you, you look at the schedule and you think, could someone at the office please buy a road atlas and figure out that Ipswich isn't that near Bradford? But you get used to that, and I'd rather be working. It's the showbiz thing. Everyone complains when they're not busy, and they complain when they're busy.
And that place you're in now, where you walk out on stage and they know who you are, I look back at your history. I mean, you've done all the crappiest clubs up and down the country.
Yeah, I played some of the crappiest clubs in the country. Yeah, that's quite true.
And when they don't know who you are, that's really tough, isn't it? Because you've then got to try and impress them. It must be easier now in one way. I know you've still got to deliver.
Yeah, you've got to deliver, but yes, you're 5 paces down the road. You don't have to do the thing. For many years, you have this thing built into your stand-up where you've got to explain what you're doing, and I don't have to do that anymore.
Let's talk about you a bit, because an incredible upbringing.
Wasn't raised by wolves.
No, but I mean, I was raised by a binman. You're the son of a lieutenant colonel.
Yeah, if you want. But he's my, I don't think of him like that. He's my dad. It's amazing what people will put on Wikipedia.
So I shouldn't believe it all.
I wouldn't believe much of it.
What was the year that you made it, that you actually felt that it was all worth it?
When I was playing the clubs, there was a year when I think I did something like 350 gigs, and the phone didn't stop ringing, and I thought, well, I've got this lick now, I can make a decent living out of it, and it's all ticking over, and I was headlining and I was able to do longer sets and stuff, and that was the year where I thought, well, I kind of know this job now. And then I think probably the second Edinburgh, or the third or fourth Edinburgh, I can't remember, because I had 4 Perrier nominations on the trot, and I think the first Perrier nomination, I think, gosh, that's cool. Wow, they've recognised me for this award, and then they kept coming, and I really felt like I was doing something right. I mean, you can't hang out for awards, and you can't judge yourself by those awards, but it just all seemed, I seem to have got the measure of the job by then, I think. But there's never a point where you think, phew, I'm home and dry, and I don't have to take my foot off the gas.
Was there one gig when you thought, that's it, I've mastered my art, it went well, and I can learn and only move on and get better from here? Or does it not work like that? It does work like that. There's sort of the 4th Edinburgh show I did a show that was called And a Glass of White Wine for the Lady. And the title in itself kind of, basically I used to really try hard to write shows with lots of things going on in them. And then the 4th year I thought, right, it's time to just forget about that and try and write a very straightforward show full of jokes rather than clever storytelling things and all that sort of thing. And I did that, and that was the best show I'd written up to that point. It was the kind of thing of stripping away some of the built-on flim-flam and making it more direct. And that was the year I thought, gosh, that's a big breakthrough, and certainly in terms of how to write. And it's all about writing. Being a stand-up is all about writing. It's a writing job, How do you know that? This is what I find most fascinating, because I watch those morons on X Factor who think that they can sing like Elton or perform like Madonna, and they can't. How do you know you're actually funny?
You find out pretty quickly. Let me tell you that much when you get on stage. Yeah, that's what appealed to me about stand-up in the first place. Is I sort of did acting and stuff at school, and you'd think I really enjoyed it, but the extra appeal of stand-up is you find out pretty quickly how it's going. It's not like doing a play and then never being, for 2 hours a night and them clapping at the end, and then you're not hired again. You think, oh, what happened? If you go on stage and they're not laughing within the first couple of minutes, that's a pretty heavy clue to how you're doing.